So, hey up everyone, it's Sophie. I really wanted to do some different videos on my channel that's not just poetry, and I got talking to the lovely Richard,
Hi, I'm Richard.
who has agreed to film some stuff with me. Richard is my kind of go-to person when asking about birds and knows a lot about nature, and I just wondered if you could introduce yourself, the jobs that you've done, and tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Sophie. I've been into nature and wildlife ever since knee high to a grasshopper, placed on my high chair and shown green woodpecker in the garden. And I've been very fortunate that I've had a career in conservation, primarily countryside rangering and access management. So I've done rangering in Northamptonshire and Berkshire, and then in Derbyshire I was fortunate to be a ranger and then eventually head of service for the countryside service. So it's been great to be able to, every day is an enjoyable day because it's what I enjoy doing. And now I'm out doing surveys and stuff and doing YouTube with Sophie.
So the reason why I wanted to start making these videos is because I've got into bird watching recently. I love seeing what's about. However, I know very little about it. I know little about what to look out for or how to even start bird watching. So obviously Richard's got loads of experience, and I thought it'd be really nice to kind of make a video each month about what's going to be coming up in the next month and about what we've seen in this month. So obviously let's talk about June first
Yeah,
of all, what we've seen in June, and how that's been.
okay. June is the busy month when birds are really getting down to raising their young. In the last few weeks around us, we've had a good year for whitethroats, little warblers which spend the winter in central southern Africa and then head up to the UK. And they've had a really good year, it would seem. It almost feels like every hawthorn thicket has got a whitethroat singing from it at the moment, so that's really good news. And also, it's been really good for blackcaps. We've had plenty of blackcaps, which again, small warblers. The males have a black cap, hence the name, but the females have a brown cap, and the young birds have a brown cap as well. So they've been really busy out and about. We've had some good sessions with blackcaps and also garden warbler. Certainly out and about locally here, it's been really good for garden warbler. We've also been pleased that we've had reed warblers back. We've had two kind of returns of reed warblers, the normal return in late April, early May, and then we've had another bird which has turned up in early June, which has got a ring on it. It's been ringed by, we're assuming a BTO ringing scheme, but it could be a European bird, but we can't, frustratingly, we can't read the ring on it. So that's a bit of a task for us to try and do with using our telescopes and our bridge cameras. So warbler wise, it's been really good. The exciting news for June is that we put up a couple of barn owl boxes last September, and within 6 weeks we had a pair of barn owls take up residency, and at the moment they're feeding young, so that's really exciting. We don't know how many young there are, but certainly the numbers of voles and mice and things that the parents are taking back, it's looking good, so fingers crossed that they're going to do well. So yeah, it's been a good June. I think this weather is winners and losers. It's been a really nice dry spell, but then birds like blackbird and songthrush struggle a bit to feed in the hard ground. So they've had a tougher time. But bad weather is the killer of all young things in wildlife, be it butterflies or birds or young mammals. So a nice steady spell of warm weather has done a lot of good. So yeah, and we're on a fairly sunny day today, so we're in the shade. I think it's in the early 20s today.
We are in the shade. It's morning and it's hot.
It's hot and it's starting to warm up. It's few what a scorcher I think it's going to be later.
Yeah. I tend to melt in this weather, so I'm
Yeah.
very happy to be under the trees.
I just burst out in freckles and still melt.
And what about July then? What about the month coming up?
Right.
What can people see? Where is it in the bird cycle of things?
Right. Well, July can be a mixed month in the fact that we bird watchers tend to refer to it as the doldrums, the quiet time, because birds have got young on the wing. They've got the first family out there, and they're concentrating on looking after them. But equally, there are birds beginning to return. The migrant birds that have come through the UK in the spring to head north, things like waders, dunlin, common sandpiper, birds like that, they've gone up into northern Scandinavia, northern Russia, all points north, and they've done their breeding cycle. And now, if they failed, they start to head south quicker than their fellows who are probably still feeding young. But July starts to see an upturn in birds heading back south. For birds, summer is very short. In some ways, it does follow the solstice in the fact that they're chasing the light. They chase the light north in the spring, and then they chase the light south in the autumn. And that because birds rely a lot on insect life, like warm, sunny weather, and that's why birds migrate. If they stayed in one spot, they would have to compete for less food. Basically, that's what they're doing. So we're getting birds beginning to think about it. This morning, there's a common sandpiper, which is our first returning migrating wader. It could be a local breeder, but I think the date and the timing, it points to a migrant heading south. So July is good to go to areas with shallow water pools, scrapes, wader scrapes. If you're in your local countryside or in your local bird reserve or wildlife trust reserve, and the shallow water is full of food, and the waders will be either taking it from there or from the muddy edges around the edges as the water begins to evaporate, and the mud is key for waders to be able to feed up. Think of it as a petrol station when you're on a car journey, or to be more appropriate, your EV charging point. Move of the times, Richard. And that's what they're doing. They're literally fueling up and getting their snacks for the trip, their road trip snacks, except they're on the major flyways. And that's the amazing thing. Wherever you are, you're on a flyway. You are connected. I think it's the important thing is to connect with nature, connect with wildlife. We are very much part of it. We impact on it. We contribute to benefiting it, but equally we contribute to ruining it. So the more you can connect with your local wildlife and see what comes and goes, then that's great. It's great for you and it's great for wildlife. So July will be really good as well. It'll be the peak of the dragonfly season as well. So if you're not seeing too many birds, you'll start to see more and more dragonflies. And they're real straight connections right back to the age of the dinosaurs. Derbyshire's famous in the fact that it's got the beast of Bolsover, not necessarily the former MP Dennis, but an amazing dragonfly with a huge wingspan that shared its world with dinosaurs. And a fossil was found at Bolsover Pit. In fact, 2 fossils were found there. And that just shows the connection, again, what we have millions of years ago, but today they're still out and about. You know, people talk about sharks being a connection to the past, and you won't see them probably locally, or depending on where you live in the world, but you might do. So tell us about it down below. But dragonflies are our flying fossils, and equally, the birds which I'm heavily into, that's what dinosaurs evolved into. They are the living cousins and relatives of dinosaurs.
And is there different types of dragonflies that we see in the UK that we might look out for?
Yeah, there are there are 4 types in a way. There are 2 types of dragonfly. There is a dragonfly and there's a damselfly. And dragonflies are the big insects, and the damselflies are the very needle-like, thin, often blue, and they'll put their wings over their back, whereas dragonflies have their wings out straight. And in the dragonflies, there are hawkers, chasers, and darters. At the moment, it's very much chasers are on the wing. The hawkers are beginning to build up, certainly in the Midlands North. In the south of the UK, they've been out a fair few weeks. But spring and summer take different times to evolve. They always say spring marches north at the pace of a walking person. So that's one day at a time. The chasers love to just sit amongst areas where, in vegetation, where there's lots of their food about, small flies, gnats, midges, and they'll go out and hit insects and then come back to the same point to dispatch it and eat it. The hawkers are the bigger dragonflies. The one that you'll probably see in July looks as though it's got brown wings and a brown body, and that's the hint in the name. It's a brown hawker, and that's a really good one to get to know because you can be fairly confident that if it's brown with brown wings and big, it's a brown hawker. Four-spotted chasers are about at the moment, and they've got, when you look at their wings when they're perched up, they've got 4 spots on the wing, and they're like a bronzy colour. They're beautiful. But they can fox you, dragonflies, in the later summer because they're beginning to wear out, so their colours fade. And we talk about prunescence is a big word, and that's as they fade away because they don't last too long, and they'll last until the first frost or the food runs out if we have bad weather. So check around your ponds, your ditches, your canals, your garden ponds. That's a really good summer project or autumn project to put a pond in your garden if you haven't already. And if you've got no room for a pond, just put an old washing up bowl out or a bucket. And it's amazing what pond life is attracted to water, because things like water boatmen and water beetles fly, and they'll discover you. And even if they don't stay there forever, you'll see them in your little pocket ponds. So that's a good project to do. Damselflies are more likely in July. You'll get them in long grass along near watercourses. And the reason that you don't get dragonflies and damselflies always by the water, because as soon as they hatch, they emerge. They spend some things like golden ring dragonfly can spend 2 years underwater as a larvae. They're real tigers of the underwater world. They'll eat anything. And also they've got expandable jaws that shoot out and grab their prey and bring it back. Amazing things. We'll have to do pond dipping one day. And they then emerge early in the morning and go up a stem, grip onto the stem, and like a butterfly emerges from a pupa, the dragonfly or damselfly emerges from what we call an exuviae. And you'll find them, even after the dragonflies have gone, stuck on reed stems. So that's something to look for. Before they leave, they have to pump up their wings and the veins in the wings, and then they have to harden off. But they then leave water and get as far away from water as they can, because they're immature, and especially the males who've hatched earlier will be patrolling their territory and will drive them away, and they're not strong enough, and equally they're too young to mate at that point. So they go away into woodland edges, woodland rides, fields, and feed up and mature, get the colours, because they haven't got the full colours when they hatch, and then they'll come back to their water bodies and patrol and a territory and attract a mate, and then the whole cycle starts again. And that's a whole series in itself, but I think I've bored you to death a bit there on dragons and damsels. Big thing to remember, dragons and damselflies do not bite, they do not sting. Even though old names are devil's darning needle and things like that, the devil's horse, they had all sorts of evil connotations, but equally in Japan they're a good luck symbol. So not everybody sees them the same way, and I'm hoping that by now that people see dragonflies as amazing winged wetland wonders, and they won't hurt you. The southern hawker, which is quite a common dragonfly you'll see in July, will do you a body scan. It's almost like being in an MRI scan, and they'll approach you and go up and down, and it's as if they're scanning you. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, if you just put your hand out like that and stay still, they'll land on your hand. It's amazing, and they'll bask a bit, then fly off. Southern hawkers are the best for doing that. They're really good fun. And you'll see little red dragonflies, and they're common darters. They're quite a common is a good term for them, because they are a regularly seen dragonfly. You'll see in most areas near wetland. You'll get lots of common darters, and there's a load of dragonflies. But start off on broad-body chaser, four-spotted chaser, brown hawker, azure damselfly, and common darter. Have a look on the net. You don't have to have a book in the house to see what they are. The net is, you know, I won't mention the names because we're not being sponsored, are we? But you know, your search engines of choice will give you an open door to that. But if people want to know what books to use, put the comments in below, and we will report back on that later.
It's good to have your wealth of knowledge helping us out for this. Yes, thank you so much for that. That was really, really useful and informative. And yeah, get out into your garden or your local park or your reserve. We will be back next month talking about how July has been and what we've seen, and what to look for in August. So thank you for tuning in. If you've got any questions, comment below, and enjoy your summer.
Yep, we'll see you on the trail.